All right, so for this episode of the Blerd Talk Podcast, we will be discussing what are you afraid of? Because you have to be afraid of something. If not, then you're a complete psychopath, right, Alex?
I mean, maybe I'm a complete psychopath.
So you're not afraid of nothing.
I've accepted a lot of things.
So
I'd say, like, for me in particular, I don't have a lot of fear of myself per se.
mhm.
Like, if I was to say something I'm afraid of, I'm afraid of like hurting other people. That's like a
Like why?
huge
Like
fear I have.
what do you dive deep into that? Let's fall down the rabbit hole.
Do you really want to jump
Yeah,
down the,
yes,
the
yes, I
rabbit hole
do.
mess
Yeah,
with my mind?
Yes.
that's the podcast.
Take your
We have
time.
conversations about, let's say, just trivial things in life, and
Mm-hmm.
how some people obviously in life will make it, and making it looks different for everyone, and some people won't. Some people will never get to the point of understanding, like, having pride and being boastful as, let's say, an adult male, and like being hard and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How much you throw away trying to live that lifestyle, like responsibility of friends, responsibility of families, having people rely on you, generational wealth, things of that nature. Like, those concepts are foreign because that doesn't exist in their world. So there's people who just in a sense will never get there. People who will never get to like a greater sense of, I guess, enlightenment, I'd say. So a fear I personally have is either preventing, stopping, hindering, or hurting anyone else's progression in life with the things I can say to people. As you know, I'm generally more of a blunt person,
Mm-hmm.
and not everyone takes kind to that. So my biggest fear is hurting, hindering, or like I said, kind of stopping that progression for people and causing potentially those emotional scars that people carry for the rest of their life. I don't want to be the cause of anyone's trauma, is the biggest thing, based on something that I might not find important or something I find kind of foolhardy based on how I speak or what I think of it. So I'm always really kind of careful with how I speak about things, especially with newer people,
I
because
was
I
just
don't
about to
want
ask you that too.
that to occur.
I was just about to ask you. So, do you, because of that, do you just choose your words more carefully, but you literally just
I
listen?
I dumb myself down a lot on purpose, like
Yeah.
immensely. In general public, general society, generally talking to people, and like overall, more of a, I guess, more of a safety concern of to not hinder or trample on those things. Now, obviously, if someone asks, like, if someone asks and they ask for it, like, I don't really have any qualms with that. But as far as other topics or other avenues in life, I generally kind of just sit back and listen.
So, do you feel like at any point you would just be kind of like, after it, like I said what I said, or
Well, yeah, that's the next part of the fear. Innocence, becoming the villain, living long enough to be a villain, not caring about certain things like that, or not caring on how you're perceived completely, because then perception is still important. Like when people say things like, "I don't care how people view me," I'm like, "Man, you're a damn lie." Like, everyone cares to a degree about how other people view them and how you view yourself and how you want to be viewed. Those are all, distinct topics. I think very interesting if you really were like trying to piece it together as far as like the significance of how you're viewed in society and what access that enables you.
mm-hmm.
So, but kind of to spin it back to the original point. No, that's the point that I always try to keep myself balanced with. I was talking to Rafik and Heather before about a couple things on Friday last week, because we watch The Last of Us each Friday. One of the things I said to him in particular is that everyone needs someone to kind of give them like a level reset, like to keep them balanced or grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have that, like those people, or if you aren't that person, you need it on the opposite side. If you don't have that checks and balance, then things generally go quite horrible, as far as things in your life. I met some other person earlier at the gym, and I can tell, at least just from speaking with him, he doesn't have someone, at least anymore, to like really keep him grounded. A big example was when Kanye West lost his mom, and people said ever since he lost his mom, he was a totally different person, right?
Right.
His
Yeah.
mom was that person more than likely that kept him grounded. And without that person to kind of keep him at that base level, or at least bring him back to that, I mean, that's all the stuff we see now with Kanye.
Do you feel
So,
like
oh, go ahead.
do you feel like you have the person that'll keep you anchored?
That's the thing. I have a lot of people like that to keep me anchored. The issue is obviously no one lasts forever,
Right.
and things don't stay here forever. Like, just because they may be able to keep me grounded now doesn't mean in the future I'll still be able to remain grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like I feel like I agree with the having someone to anchor you because I've had this conversation with people before. Like my brother is the anchor. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wondered in my head when he's gone, what will happen. So I try to like mentally prepare myself. You know what I'm saying for that situation where he is gone because I don't want to end up like a Kanye. Not like no disrespect or shade towards him, but you can, like you said, you can clearly see there's a difference in personality or character or whatever. So I'd rather not even be in that same conversation or same boat as he is in when one person like is gone and everything falls apart. Jock, what about you?
No, I was just thinking about that. I don't actually think I have a person to keep me grounded anymore.
Well, it's
But
more about like what I was
huh?
asking more about fear. Like, what do you fear?
Oh, fears. I think like I'm gonna break this down to two segments. I have like a personal fear and I have sort of just like a general external fear.
Okay.
Um, my personal fear is failure, but like epic, just completely falling on my ass and like horrible consequences failure. And it's it's a hard one because on one hand, obviously failure is inevitable. We all, especially if you're doing something new, um, odds are you're gonna fail a few times before you get it right. I failed a lot at a lot of things. Just fucking being an artist. It's the whole process of learning is repeated failure
Mm-hmm.
until you get it right. Um, but the other end of it is that like it does help me achieve things that other people maybe wouldn't access to because they become more comfortable with not having succeeded at the thing. And so it's like this weird double-edged sword, but like and a lot of times I think people don't realize that like it's not just like the achievement that motivates me. It's like I'm actually fucking terrified of like failure and like being inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
Like that motivates me more than the actual games themselves a lot of the time. Um, so that's like a personal fear. Um, my like outside of myself fear is just that like humanity is just not gonna go well. That there's something about us that makes it so that we're either gonna destroy ourselves or we're gonna turn it like the Wall-E universe type thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, where it's like at a certain point it's like or even just like devolving into barbarism because like I've been starting to wonder if like there's just something about humans that just can't make it past a certain point. And I feel like we're getting there. You know, like I feel like we're getting to a point where it's like we're kind of degenerating. And it's hard to watch. It's also one of those things that like sometimes like I feel like I'm crazy. Cause like I'll see crazy shit go on and I'm like, why does it feel like no one is really bothered by this? Like to the extent that like I'm bothered by it. So it's like, am I just crazy? You
So
know,
are you?
like
So is it more about you being in your head more than anything, or?
it's a mixture of being in my head but also being kind of shocked that like no one else sees this. You know? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a weird feeling because obviously like no one wants to ever like call someone crazy, right? Like people would typically avoid that. right, at all cost. But sometimes, like, I'll see things happen, and like no one else is reacting to it. Like, no one seems to give a shit, and I'm just kind of sitting there, just like stunned. That like, okay, so
The less
there's a
fucks
chance.
that people have.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's a good way of putting it. It's like just no one gives a shit. No one cares. And it's weird because like I also see people like, fuck. Okay, I don't know. Do you mind if I bring up something kind of controversial?
I mean,
Like,
this is what we do.
okay. So I don't know if you saw the thing I posted today where like I saw this lady who was a friend of mine actually. She was a fellow teacher. She posted this thing where it's like but how I explain drag to my kids. And then the response is like, well, you explained them how to, prep for like a school shooting, I think they'll be fine.
Mm.
And the thing that disturbs me about that is like, one, what like why are you using school shootings as a justification for what you want to do? Like it's kind of just like, oh, we're at the point where like you're just cool with kids have to prepare to get fucking shot at.
The normal,
you know what I mean?
Of things that should have never been normal.
Exactly. It's like that kind of hit me like when I saw that because I saw it this morning. I actually just put my phone down and it was fuck.
Mm.
Like that's and she posted it to being like, oh, this is such a great thing, and I'm just like, no, it's fucking not, and like sometimes I see that shit and like honestly like it kind of panics me sometimes. Like I don't often get like the panic response, but like there's times when like I'll see shit happen. I'm just like, this isn't good. And like people should, it's weird that like people aren't fucking bothered by it, and it's like, yeah, I think so. That's my like my big like outside of myself fear is that like there's just something wrong with humans, and like yeah.
So as far as the failure of it, when I was younger, I always compare myself to my brother I guess because he's my brother, so I just compare myself to him because who else am I doing? I guess. Yeah, he's 14 years older than me.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly when I was a kid, I found his old report cards. I wasn't good at school. My grades was shits in school. So I saw his report cards and it was A's and B's. And so I was like, well, damn, I'm not getting A's and B's. Why? So then that's when the fear of failure set in. Cause I'm like, well, damn, if I'm not getting this, then I must be less than. You know what I'm saying? So I got, when you're young, I think I was talking with you, Alex, about when you're in your early 20s, teenager, you feel like you're invisible. You ain't nothing to fear. You're not scared of nothing. So first fear was like, I'm not scared of nobody, right? Then I'm like, I'm not scared of nothing at all. But then as I got older, the one thing, so it was failure at first, right? But then like you said, Jock, you're going to fail at some point. So it's like, what can you do to learn from that failure to improve so you won't fail again, right? Because I've learned throughout my life, I have to learn stuff the hard way. So it's just what it is.
Same here.
You fall on your face. What can you do to not make sure you don't fall on your face again, right? And so I try to teach that to my daughter as well. So now the fear isn't failure necessarily, because I know I can overcome it at some point. But now the older I get, my mortality is one of the things that I can't control it. It's out of my control, but it's happening. And for me to know that something's going to happen, you don't know when it is, and you don't know how it's going to happen, and it's completely out of your control. And it's kind of crazy that people tell you don't stress about stuff you can't control. You know what I'm saying? But that's the one thing you cannot control. And so, like, which is, like, as I told Alex, like, this is the whole reason why this is a thing. You know what I'm saying? The podcast or whatever, why I do what I do. That's out of fear. So, you know what I'm saying? Because I want to leave something for my daughter. As I've always been saying for the past 3 years, this is why I do it. I don't know. I mean, I think about this every day. Like, this is and it's not, I don't want to say it stresses me, but it's a constant thought like I'll sit at a stoplight, and then I'll just think of something random. Like, what if the light turned green? I go through, the truck just comes and rams me 2 blocks down the street. So then I'll just put my seatbelt on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like little stuff like that. I think about that, and it's horrible. It's a horrible way to live. I feel like, to constantly think about your mortality. But I mean, I enjoy my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm just sitting here like, the little string tied to another. Like, I'm trying to like predict my own, like, some what's that Final Destination thing
with the red string?
Yeah. So I mean, we're laughing about it, but dead ass though. Like, that's.
I know you are.
I mean,
like,
no, it's something in your delivery. Like, I mean, it is. No, I can relate to that on some level. I used to be a lot more afraid of my own death than I am now. But I do remember, like, there was a time when, like, I was just, I would kind of have those thoughts. Like, I actually think it might be one of the reasons why I'm not afraid of driving, but like why I never was able to learn how to drive. It stresses me out way too fucking much. Like, it's just like, cause like, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, I get it, like everyone drives, right? But it's like, you're also operating, probably like several tons, 2 ton, maybe at least, let's say 8 ton. I don't know how much a car weighs.
No, yeah,
but like,
you're right.
You're behind like a several ton clunk of metal, and with other people who are operating several ton clunk of metals, like, that's one of the things I can't stand. Is like, if I'm driving with someone and like they're on their phone, or they like, reach into their bags and.
Yeah. I mean, I do not want to talk about how many close calls I had with that in general.
Yeah, a couple of things actually stuck out for this. Because I'm that weird guy, Dante. So when you talked about like death and things like that, I had that fear earlier in middle school and high school. Middle school was a suicide attempt of just getting the fuck off this planet. And obviously I didn't do it. Close to, just didn't complete. So that kind of solidified my own mortality of like, I mean, there will be a day I won't be here, but at least I'll be here tomorrow type deal. So I kind of go over that for me early in life. And then kind of what solidified that was in my early college years, I went for EMS all the way up to my paramedic. So I was just around death and I've seen death. So I was like, oh, this is kind of how it is. Like, nothing to lead to the imagination, I'll say, of the fear of it. Like, it happens. It comes for us all. Like, it will be here one day. What day that will be? But like, I don't per se stress about that.
I don't.
But the thing is, like, that's the difference. So like, remember when you say like, what fears do you have? For me, fears that I do have aren't in the sense of fears that will guide me to or from something. It's more so of understanding why I have that fear and then not letting the fear take hold. So I understand my mortality could happen next 10 seconds, could be an aneurysm. My heart could just pop. Like, I could just have bad genes. Like, it could just happen. So so many weird things that can happen. Real stress right now. But for you, obviously, it's like increased stress, right? For you, it's just like, it's just a part of being a human. This is the responsibility of being a human.
So one of the things that has been ever since my daughter was born. So my grandfather, who had died before I was born, my dad told me his dad died when he was 13, right? So then I remember distinctly, and ironically, my dad had brought it up when I was in Richmond recently. He had a heart attack when I was 13. And then that stuck in my head, 13. So then my daughter's 13.
Yeah.
So I was telling Charlize, I'm like, yo, like, what? She's 13. I'm kind of like wigging out right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so with the stress, she was telling me, like, relax. Just, you can't control this, that, and the third. If you stress out enough, that could kill you.
I was like, well, that's the caveat, though. You can control a lot of those things. You can work out, eat healthy, go to the gym, get checkups, physicals, maintain yourself. Like, those things you can do. But then the question is, are those things you're doing?
No.
All right, then now who cares
okay,
then, right?
okay, so
you're not preparing appropriately for that fear.
Right. So no. Okay. So that's what I was about to say. The follow up behind that was when she said that, I was like, okay. Even though it's still mortality, is still a fear. Mortality within her, Avani's age range from 13 to 14 is not so much, because it was just the fact that, and I thought about it. It's like it was the more so because of my grandfather and my dad 13, and then my dad at 13. You know what I'm saying? That age. But that 13, and it had nothing to do with the superstition of the number itself. It could have been 8 for all I care for. You know what I'm saying? But it was just that stuck through, and I was like, oh, okay, well, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to be all right, one way or another. So then that kind of died down. It's still in the back of my mind. It's still going to stay there until she turns 14. But that's calmed down, but then it's still the whole morality factor.
Yeah,
and this, and so then it's like, okay, well, if not, then when? And we don't know the answer. I don't think. Remember, it was in Death Note where the Shinigami can tell you, or if you do whatever, you can see the
he could take half his life away to get the Shinigami eyes, so he would know.
Why would anybody want that?
You said why?
Yeah, why would somebody?
I just say, what do you mean? That's it's such valuable information. Remember Miss Cleo in like the early 90s, the whole, I can tell you your future by reading the tarot card. Yeah, right?
Oh my God.
People, and that's why I wish, in a sense, like, I would love to be an information broker, because as you know, I just love information in general, because having the right information changes everything in your life. It doesn't matter how skillful, how tactful, how great you are. If you're fed the wrong information, you're doomed to fail. Having the right piece of information changes lives across the globe. So just the fact of, in a sense, let's say you knew when you would die, which would probably be another topic, or it could be here. If you knew exactly when you die, that changes everything and how you behave. Everything.
Yeah, it does. I'm not okay. So when I ask, wow, so me personally, if I knew the date, I think that will kick things into overdrive. Yeah, it will change my behavior. Yeah. I will probably do certain things or change my patterns or some stuff, but that's going to kick my stress levels into overdrive because I know. So it's like
natural. That's how you're supposed. So this is the thing people don't talk about with fear. Is like we feel fear for a reason. Like the reason why. So okay, here's how far this goes. Right. So if we were all in a room right now, right. If one of us started like feeling really afraid of something and like started to become adrenalized, just the scent, even though like you don't know that you can smell adrenaline on another person, you can. Just the scent of human adrenaline will cause you to start producing adrenaline because your body is like, oh, okay, another human somewhere is really fucking scared and is in fight or flight response. I don't know where the threat is. You might not even see the other human. But your body is just like, if there's another human being in danger, I'm probably in danger, so let me just get ready.
It's like if you out in public and you see one person run past you full speed, you looking like the fuck? Like
you're scared?
Like where he going? What's wrong with him? And then you look and then you see more people running past you. You're absolutely right. You're gonna be like, yo, fuck this. I'm out. Like I don't know what I'm running from, but there's something out there that's causing harm or that's reason people to fear it, to run from it. So yeah, I agree completely with that.
Valuable. Like your fear response is very valuable for keeping you alive. It also causes you to. So remember, you said right. So you right now, you're afraid because your daughter's 13, right? But we also asked you like, hey, like, are you working out, eating healthy, and that stuff? And you're like, nah.
Right.
But you said if you knew when you were gonna die, it would kick shit into overdrive, right? It would move you to action, right? And like stress, like I think the chemical's cortisol. Yeah. Cortisol is there to make you take action. That's why you're so restless when you're stressed. It's because like you are literally receiving a chemical in your brain that is like, do some shit about the situation, right? And like that's actually very valuable. Like it kind of ties back to that thing where it's like a lot of the stuff I'm able to do is because like in addition to like wanting the reward, I'm just fucking terrified. So like I'm just adrenalized and just like added like a mad dog, and like that is useful. It's useful. It's uncomfortable as fuck. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I knew the day I was gonna die, I'd be like pretty just like, it would fuck with me a little bit. But all the things you could do with that information, like you could plan so much. You could plan your actual life. Like literally you could actually plan your actual life, you could just get everything set up. I mean, like the other thing too is like a weird cheat is like if you know when you're gonna die, you kind of know that like you're not gonna die in a plane crash tomorrow. You're gonna die of like a heart attack at like 55 or whatever. You know what I mean? So like it'll take the stress off of like my daily stuff for sure. Like you won't wear your seatbelt. You know?
See, but that's the other thing that people don't realize. That's the caveat of it, right? Everyone obviously is going to do something different with this. Like for Dante, for example, his entire thing is fear and being stressed out. The complete opposite side is people just being foolhardy, not wearing seatbelts and things like that. And they're like, oh, I can't die because this is the date I die, right? But that means you just can't die. That doesn't mean you can't be mortally wounded. That doesn't mean you can't be paraplegic from here until the date of your death. It doesn't mean you can't be under a feeding tube unconscious, and then that's the day they pull the plug.
And
that's the part that people don't.
And I'm glad you spoke on that because you said what I was thinking, but you articulated for me. That's why I said, why would you want to know? Because then you become complacent. You'll be like, oh,
some people will be.
Yeah. Well, you can. The option is available for you to be complacent. It was like, oh, okay, I'm gone on this day 5 years from now. Well, fuck it. Let me just run down the street. Yeah, let me just run right at a car or something.
Drink
like,
every day.
Like, it's heroin.
A part of the conversation as well was when we discussed, hey, if somehow you could definitively say what religion is either A, the right religion, or B, what God exists, or C, if God doesn't exist, and you could tell that to everyone, they believe you. And it's factually true, would you? And let's say the answer is God doesn't exist. How would that change society as a whole?
I would keep that to myself.
With a godless society, some people, in a sense, would just wow the fuck out because for some people, God is that grounding feature, is that anchor for them, right?
Yeah.
If you remove that anchor for them, they may just give no fucks given about the world, and you create some of the worst people ever. In the same function of for someone who can't die, they might think, oh man, I can just like pillage and grape and do all these other things because for them, death is the worst consequence of not knowing. Now they're like, oh, that's out the window. I can just do whatever I want. So it changes the person to person what they do or how ridiculous they be, robbing people, just beating people up in general, like getting themselves in ridiculous situations, not caring about the morality of other people. Like the driving situation, right? They could be driving with a friend, but in their head, they're like, I can't die. But guess what? Your friend still can. Like people don't fully rationalize these things. And then going back earlier, driving is actually when I was taking a lot of the courses for DMV, like learning how to drive in high school. For your common day person, driving is the most dangerous thing they'll do in their entire life. Every single day, risking their life, which is another reason why I think remote work's amazing because I don't have to risk my life going to work for this shitty company. But digress on that matter. The actual, I guess, true fear as I began to talk and then like list you guys as well. I think like my biggest fear, and this is beyond even just like accepting it, is just losing myself and losing my mind. And you touched upon it, Jock, and I have a story to tell. It was one of my last shifts when I was going through my paramedic course. There was this guy who was probably in his 70s or 80s, and he was a doctor his whole life, helped out thousands of people, great person, things like that, told me about his wife. And he had dementia. And he was losing all of the knowledge that he amassed and all those people he helped slowly but surely to the point where he was just a shell of a human. He existed. He could, talk and things like that, but nothing to what he was before.
Yeah, his memory.
And I sat with him in his room and just sat and looked and thought, can you imagine studying for 20 or 30 years of your life? For most people, it's their whole life, right? Owning this skill, this passion, helping out so many different people, going into millions of dollars of debt fathering who knows how many children, things like that, and you can't remember any of that. And your memories are stripped away from you slowly but surely. Every single day of your life, your brain forgets something else until it ultimately forgets who you even are. That for me is like the most terrifying thing ever, because for me, what I've come to the conclusion is there is no preparation for that, because your preparations will just be deleted by your brain anyway. Like, yeah, you could prepare on paper, like around you with other people, but still, that's absolutely terrifying. So losing my mind or losing myself. So like the example John gave earlier with the whole drag queen thing, and then people relate it to school shootings and how normalized that is, right? One of my fears, which is why I think I kind of tend to more isolation now as I grow older, which I'm starting to understand why like a lot of media and things like that have that kind of one isolated character who's so far away from society. And never kind of understood why. But as I grow older, I understand more, because it gets to the point where you look at the things society does and you always leave room for error of like, maybe I'm the wrong one. Maybe it's something I didn't see, right? But you look at some of these events and these stories and you're like, this can't be normal. This can't be real. But it is. And it's here in front of you. And everyone else thinks it's normal except for you. And you know, if you speak out, you'll
be ostracized. Yeah.
But you know, if you don't speak out, every time you don't, you also lose a part of yourself with it, because you know what's going on is not actually what's supposed to happen. So then you're forever stuck in this super weird gray of looking at what's happening in front of you and being like, this can't be, why do you all think this way? But also understanding you may not have the power or influence to change that. And it's not within your right to change that based on the laws that, we have here in the States as well. But you're like, this is so backwards, to a point where you don't want to be around it anymore, which leads to the isolationism portion of it. Or it can lead to just a total mental breakdown of the person. And then they do start doing ridiculous, crazy things because they've been exposed to so much, and their reality eventually breaks.
Yeah. That's how. So as far as going with the dementia aspect of what you had said, my grandmother had Alzheimer's.
Same here.
So when I remember distinctly before she had passed, I walked into. She was in that nursing home in Forest Hill or something like that. We walked into the nursing home, and she looked at me, and she called me my uncle's name, right? So me, I'm a teenager. No. Yeah, I'm like early 20s, 18, 19, whatever, right? And I understand Alzheimer's. I don't know how in depth it is or how it affects the brain. I know that her memory was shaky. So I can understand and relate to what you were saying, Alex, about as far as dementia. Like, imagine that you have all these memories of loved ones, family, experiences, and then, like you said, Alex, at one point you just don't remember, or you're confused. And confusion is one of the words. I hate being confused. Like, I despise being confused. And so just me not knowing, but me experiencing confusion, and then on that type of scale where I confuse Alex with Jock or something like that. You know what I'm saying? That is a fearful thing. That is a terrifying thing once you break that down and think about that as well.
It used to be how I defined hell. Like mathematically, right? I used to do these things where, like, mathematically, how could you define God, heaven and hell? The hell one was, imagine that, like, you live in this world where, like, your brain constantly gets, like, formed and then destroyed. Formed and then destroyed. And so you were just perpetually waking up to yourself just being destroyed. You have no fucking idea why. You have, like, you just keep waking up to yourself just slowly decaying. And that's kind of what it's like. So, like, Alzheimer's, the way I describe it is like you took, like, a ball of sugar and that's your brain, and then, like, you just slowly dip it in water, and it just keeps and it eventually disintegrates. That's kind of what happens. It's like it's literally your brain is disintegrating. It's very slowly, but like it starts actually really early. Like it starts at 40, but like there's so much fucking brain and it's so slow that like by the time there's like real symptoms, it's like
It's too far. You too far gone or too far deep.
Yeah, and so you guys know how like for us in our culture, like family sticks around. Like we don't know the concept of nursing home. Um, so my grandma, when she had it, and one of my aunts also had it, we kept both of them like family. And I remember there was this one hangout with my great aunt. I remember like 'cause her and I were really close, and I remember just seeing her like sitting in her rocking chair, just looking around because like it was just like a family, like there was the whole family was just together. I remember seeing her sitting in her rocking chair, not rocking, just kind of looking around and just have no clue what the fuck's going on. Like you could see it in her eyes. And I just remember like instead of talking with everyone else, I was just looking at her. Just confusion. And everyone else is just minding their business because like she's been living with them for years like this, so like they're just talking, but she's just sitting there just like she looked like a prisoner, but like a prisoner inside her own body. It's like she just was like, what the fuck's going on? And she's also old and weak too, so it's like, it's rough. It's a rough way to go.
Yeah, that's and in combination of the whole morality, because I'm not sure how Alzheimer's work exactly. Like I'm going to assume that it's somewhat hereditary. Am I right or wrong? 'Cause I haven't studied. I don't know. So I'm assuming it is at some point to some degree, right? Or no?
To some degree, like you're more likely to get it if it runs in the family. Yeah, it's kind of like
right.
cancer.
Okay. So I thought I figured that's what it was, right? So that at one point I'm fearful of that for my mother, and then because conversation I had with my brother, that is a fear, like so we like what I was saying earlier was a personal. You like Jai had a outside fear. That is the outside fear of it running. Kind of like an outside, I guess, but running in the family, like something like that, running through the family, and then I pass it. It comes to me, and then I pass it to my daughter or what other kids I may or may not have. You know what I mean? Like just passing bad genes, I guess. And it's kind of hard. It sounds bad to say. So then it's like you. Can't remember I posted in the Discord where Chad Johnson said he had multiple kids. But he had kids with athletes, like he did the legwork on the people. I don't know if Alex you saw it, but he had kids with women who are athletes. They had to have an athletic background, and he did the research. He was like, "Well, where's your tape? Where's your film? What you running a 40?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he was like asking questions like that because he wanted to raise a certain type of child. Of course, people in the comments was like, "Oh, he's breeding. That's blah 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 blah." So if you take that concept, right, and if you say you wanted to breed or not breed, if you wanted to have children with people who are like good genes
with a specific trait in mind. I mean, what you're really kind of talking about is a lot of different popular fanfic in general. One of the most notable would be, and people probably don't really even think about this, but it's actually, what's the one that has Deku in it?
Dude?
My Hero Academia. That's the entire backstory of the current number one hero. Long story short, he Mr. Mr. Flame on dude from the Fantastic Four. He can control fire at really high temperature. He just a fire boy, right? But his deficit is when he uses his power too much, he overheats. So he wanted to have a child with someone else who has a power. You can even think of it X-Men, right? He wanted to have a power with someone else who had the ability to control cold or the ice. Because then he would make an unstoppable child, right? He can tap into his heat and cool himself down whenever needed. So he attempts to have multiple babies to find that perfect child who is going to be that next hero in this world who's going to protect people, right? But he winds up being a pretty shitty father to all the failures because, you know, it doesn't always happen as a one, like, as you know, passing on genes, it's not perfect. So the first one he has, I'm not going to spoil anything. It went really bad. Second one he had still went bad. The third one he had, female, still went bad. And then the fourth one, which is Todoroki, his is perfect. But once again, when you're practicing eugenics in a sense, it's not a perfect science. And then the question becomes like, is that morally right? Is that something society should be okay with? Because on one hand, like you said, hey man, we could eliminate all these bad genes, right?
And then you eliminate
all that could be gone. We could have the strongest, best people ever. Another thing, Invincible, if you've watched that, right? That's what happened on their home planet. Whereas, in a sense, they had a war, only the strongest dudes lived, and then they were like, all right, these are the people who are going to repopulate. Only the strongest have the ability to repopulate.
And I bring that up to kind of ask the question. I don't know if it can't be answered, but I'm going to try anyway. But can you eliminate a fear of passing a bad gene with that type of mindset?
With eugenics, if we practice it, yeah. I think you could. Yeah. We have the science for it. I mean, that's the entire thing with Hitler as well. Bringing it to real life, you know, we saw these people as
bring it to real life.
Yeah, to real life. Like that was the entire thing about it. Mm-hmm. Blue eyes, blonde hair. These are the perfect features. I'm sure it's probably a couple more. You know, I didn't read too deep into it, but you know, regardless, same thing. And obviously, waged an entire fucking war over this shit. But you know, is that? And I was not saying to take Hitler's approach for it anyway, if that's the route humanity decided to go. But there probably will come a time with it. I mean, there's already a time now where people are like, hey, I want to have a boy. So we have different medical treatments to have people have boys over girls or vice versa. Hey, I want to have a girl. If it's not a girl, I don't want it. Like, yeah. The same thing with people. Like, we have technology to say, like, oh, your kid might probably have Down syndrome or some condition. Mm-hmm. And some people will abort because of that. So to sit here and fantasize and be like, could that happen? No, it's already happening. It already does happen. Some people have access to this already. Obviously, not everyone does, but there are already people that have access to that.
And it's been happening for before we had technology. I mean, it's funny to we like calling it eugenics, but it's like mate selection is also eugenics. Like,
yeah, all of it is to a degree. Yeah. I think eugenics is just a more scientific term. Like, you know, if we were to do invasive treatments to ensure it. That's probably the difference of it, but that's mate selection. That's why, in general, unhealthy traits or negative traits aren't seen favorable when you're trying to date someone. Obesity is not seen favorable, and will probably never be seen favorable for a mass majority of guys dating women, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Obesity is not seen favorable by women either. There's a reason for that. You obviously don't live on planet Earth as long. It comes with a whole host of conditions between heart diseases, between cancers, between Alzheimer's. There's so many things that happen with you, right? Bad smelling people or bad breath. Bad breath is a huge negative, not just because it sucks smelling that, but that stuff can literally cause heart diseases. It can kill you early. Gingivitis, all the plaque buildup, all that stuff has huge implications that people don't know about, right? Mm-hmm. Not being able to see, that shit sucks.
Oh, definitely.
Some people are like, yeah, man, I don't want my baby. There's one story I want a baby that has 20/20 vision. I'm like, damn, I feel that because I'm not that baby. That's a huge. Imagine glasses were never a thing. What kind of disadvantage we'd be at? I think of that all the time. Where I'm like, man, imagine if I was born before glasses were a thing.
So,
people were.
Yeah, there were people were.
So when my mom wear glasses, my brother wear glasses, my dad has glasses, and it occurred to me when my daughter was born, I said, "Will she wear glasses?" And Alex, Lord and behold, she needs glasses, low key, low key, but it's not as bad as mine's, right? So she can see and she was squint, but. And that was all this back in my mind. I hope it's not as bad as mine's because I don't want, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, like, what if we didn't have glasses, Alex?
Yeah.
Or even Jock. Like, I don't know if you have a severe prescription. Mine's
No.
Mine's bad. Same,
Yeah,
I know
mine's
yours is too. Now, like if these
mine's probably
like a
worse.
zombie
It's not
apocalypse happens and I'm running and they fly off and the zombie smashes them, you might as well kill me now, man.
yeah, like just
Like,
yeah, I'm done.
That would
Like,
suck.
I'll be able to give you mental advice and things, but like I can't see it unless it's like here.
You be a sage
Oh my
and just
God.
off advice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like we're bonded during this episode. We know each other a little bit more. I had no idea that you was fearful of that, Alex. Not even with Jack. Like I didn't know. But I feel like, what's up, Kenny? Hi, Kenny. But yeah, I appreciate y'all joining me for this conversation. I wanted to more of a, I guess, therapeutic kind of thing, like just get rid of this toxic masculinity. Don't be walking around saying,
You want to talk about it? Yeah.
don't be going around saying I ain't scared of nothing. I ain't scared of nobody or nothing. Because if you got to be scared of something. If you're not scared of nothing, then you're not a human being. Yeah.
Like one of my biggest fears is like with death. Yeah, obviously, as the entire religion believes in reincarnation. I was like, man, what if I die and I just get reincarnated as some dumb motherfucker? I was like, man, you know how
But you're
long
not-
it took me to learn all the shit I know?
But you're not gonna know. But you're not gonna know that you were
But
smarter
that's the
prior.
thing. I won't know, but that makes me mad. I'm like,
'Cause you-
damn, man. Like,
'cause
I'm
of
gonna
the
fall for the
uncertainty.
same dumbass tricks I fell for in my 10s and 20s when I'm 40. What if I just... I'm like, man, I'd be so mad if I found it out afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to be... If reincarnation is a thing, I just don't want to be reincarnated dumb again. Like,
Bro, you would hate The Egg. Have you read The Egg?
no.
It's a short story about reincarnation, and like you would hate, because at the end of the egg, it's revealed that like everyone is actually one being, but like you just get reincarnated as everyone else.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Man.
So, like
Yeah.
imagine the worst people in your life, and then realizing that like that was also you.
That was also you. That was a version of you at one point.
Mm-hmm. It's like you did those things, you made those choices, a different
Yeah.
version of you, but you still did it.
That's a mind fuck. Like, you know what's funny? Like, also ironically, I
Mhm.
thought about that too. Like let's say reincarnation is a thing, right?
Yeah.
What if I'm reincarnated and I was the shittiest person in a previous life? Or what if I'm saying what if, and then what if I'm gone and I become a shitty ass person in the next one?
Yeah.
So I mean, like I'll never know, obviously, unless I have
Mhm.
like some type of, I don't know,
Past life, you do some
universally
time travel
crisis
shit.
or something. Yeah, like, but yeah,
I used to have a fear of being a bad person, actually.
That is one of my
Like,
fears
Fear of being
still.
a what?
A bad
A
person.
bad person.
Oh yeah.
Fear because
Like-
you, as you grow older, you understand what you're capable of, and if you use your skills for the
Evil.
dark arts, I'll say, like,
The dark arts.
yeah, it's kind of how like
Alex
the-
Alex would be the
Damn.
Alex would be he'd be the worst person on this face of this earth. I'm
I-
convinced.
That's
I'm
one
just
of
convinced.
Somebody,
He would just be a super villain. Like,
somebody
But-
is a bad person.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's a difference of to everyone else, you're the villain versus you actively knowing you're doing villainous shit.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Aaron, yeah, he knows he's doing some villainous
Yeah, it's-
shit. And he don't
It's
care.
one thing to do it and thinking you're doing good, but then
Yeah.
doing it and knowing, yo, this is fucked up that I'm doing this, but you
And
do
I'm
it
doing
anyway.
that, yeah, like beating women.
Yeah.
like you
I-
just
Exactly.
do it.
Shit
For
like that.
Gotham.
Yeah, yeah, like and then knowing they can't do shit about it because you strong as fuck. What are they gonna do? Like, but that's wrong. But you do it anyway.
Yeah.
But then you argue, is it really wrong? Survival of the fittest. It ain't my fault that they were born weaker. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this is what I'm talking about when losing your mind. When you start rationalizing these
The fucked up
ridiculous,
stuff.
crazy things.
Well, I feel like I'm already on my way losing my shit then. Because
So here's the thing: you're a real villain if you enjoy it. That's when you know without a shadow of a doubt, right? Like if you enjoyed it, if you do it just because you enjoy it, you're a fucked up person. Like,
Like, oh yeah, him enjoy. Bro, the stuff Joker does on the side that we don't see, like that story about how he made a best friend of this construction worker dude.
Mhm.
Got sent to Arkham, comes back, finds him, kills his wife in front of him. The construction worker dude tries to tell people the Joker's following them, but they don't believe him because they're like, the Joker's locked up. Then the Joker fucking he moves. The Joker finds where he moves to, goes to his house, is like, "You're my best friend," and he literally turns this man crazy, all because of just some random conversation he had with him. Just because the Joker's the Joker.
Yeah, the funny thing about the Joker look like an average dude with all that makeup off.
Yeah,
That's the
Normal
scary
guy.
thing about him.
But
That's my fear. I mean, I don't. Yes, statistically speaking, I'll be able to find somebody or someone.
but it's just the heartbreak, man.
The heartbreak and going through all that.
It's
shit
like,
again.
will you make it? That's the thing. Like,
well,
Like, I'll be thinking about that shit every day. Like when I'm driving and she's in the car, I'm like, bro, I got drug cancer.
we just
Like,
talked about
we literally
that.
just we literally just said that.
Everyone hates driving.
That's
It's
how I felt
official.
like
Everyone
when we
hates
haven't
driving.
gotten that shit sliding. I'm like, what? The first thing came, that's a bitch ass way to go. Like, this is how my story is. I hydroplane and that, and I was like, bro, what if I live and Heather dies from this shit? I'll never live that shit. I don't know if I can even drive again.
The best way to explain how that it's called survivor's guilt.
Survivor, yeah.
But the best way, like, I don't know if any of y'all see it's 7 pounds.
Yeah.
That man did not make it. Well, he did not make it in that movie, and it was understandable.
Like, and it's just all the repercussions people don't talk about after. Like, how do you talk to this person's family? How do you talk to your own family?
Yeah.
Like, what does the next day-to-day look like? Like, gosh.
But thank you, Kenny, for joining in. And you were late, but that's okay. We're not judging you. You were late, but you open yourself to us, and we appreciate you.
He said no homo.
No, You
all
can't
the
do
homo.
that.
All the
That's
homo.
around the pond.
Remember, if you say
You can't
pause, you'll
say
get
that.
fined. How much that dude, the NBA player,
45,000.
45,000. We
Just
don't
for
even have
saying,
that.